What is up, people? People of the internet. I am recording a live video. How crazy is that? It still gets me. It's still super weird. I could go into my basement, flip a few switches, and talk to you. So cool. I love technology. Hey, this is definitely not an Underdog Theology episode. If you thought that's what it was, you're just nuts, because what I'm going to do now is so different. Miles away from anything that I would ever do on an Underdog Theology show. Underdog Theology is on a break. We were on a break. It's on a break. Why would I do anything about it? Guys, I'm just not going through the process of having to develop, a lot of thumbnails and make sure I have all the graphics set up right, doing all that stuff. I'm still going to be making videos over the next 2 weeks. Maybe not as many, but just because we're on a break doesn't mean we're not going to talk about stuff when it happens. So this isn't an Underdog Theology show, but it kind of is for at least the next half hour, because there's some stuff. I actually had 2 more stories that I wanted to talk about on Monday, and I just can't pack that many. I'm finding out that I just can't pack that much stuff into one episode. So we've got a few things that we're going to talk about. Sound off in the chat though, and let me know what's up with you. How are you? You doing okay? You having a rough week? Maybe you're having a really good week. If you're having a good week, tell me why. Why is this such a good week? I would love to know that. We were on a break. Why are we here? What happened now? What happened now? Stuff, Wendy. Some stuff happened. Not really. Why do I do that? I undercut. Why am I even live? Well, because I got stuff I want to talk about. I don't know why I always undercut myself. Fundamentalist background. All right, let's go. Hey, you guys remember this guy? Some people like him. Some people really, really like him. It's you guys get a hold of yourself, people. It's all right. So this is Paul Washer, and I don't know why I'm doing so much Friends stuff. I didn't even watch Friends, but I'm not a big fan. I'm just not. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I've never been. It always sounded like he was about to cry whenever he started talking, and I know that's just him. I'm not trying to make fun of the guy, but I don't have to listen to him if I don't enjoy listening to him, right? So I'm not saying making fun of his voice or something. If that's the way he talks normally, cool. For me, I'm a pretty stoic guy. I know I don't seem like that when I turn on the camera and everything, but as soon as I turn this thing off, this is what I do. And everyone is always like, Dean's mad about something. He's so angry right now. It's just nope, I'm just trying to think. This is just what I look like. So I'm a pretty stoic guy. I don't get super emotional when I preach, and he does, and that's always kind of bothered me. So I'm not the biggest fan. So I'm just letting you guys know that before I get going on this thing. But I saw this, and I gotta say, this is just crazy to me. And I tweeted about it, and everyone in life saw this tweet. I don't know. My stats right down here, you can't see it, but it says 52,000 people have seen this tweet, which to me is a lot. I know some of you guys are I tweet what I had for breakfast and it had 100 likes, and it's cool, but I don't ever get that much play. So 52,000 viewed this tweet, and lots of people were not happy with me about this. But I'll show you what Paul Washer said, and I'll show you my tweet.
So many people, especially young men, the last 15 years saying, I'm reformed, I'm reformed, I'm reformed, I'm reformed. They didn't even know what that meant. They thought being reformed is that you had some academic grasp of Calvinism. Being reformed is sola scriptura. Scripture alone. So many people,
Okay.
especially young.
So a couple things right off the bat. All right, let me get the obvious things. Being reformed isn't just sola scriptura. Like that's not the all-encompassing, like, all right, now you're reformed because you believe in sola scriptura. That's just being Protestant, So like, I don't know, like I'm sure that there's a bunch of context to this, and he probably gets into more detail about what he means by that, and blah 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 blah. All the caveats in the world, throw them in here. But in this clip, when I originally saw it, I was like, wait, what? And then he goes on to explain it, and there's more stuff. You can go online and find more stuff about that on Twitter. But that's not what it means to be a reformed. But then he's like throwing shade. And this is what I tweeted. And who were listening to, who were they listening to, Paul? You? I'm so over the leaders of the Young Restless Reform complaining about their own movement. They enjoyed the platform it gave them, but now act like we don't remember they were the voices of the whole dang thing. So he's like complaining about the Young Restless Reform movement. And I've seen this with him. I've seen it with MacArthur's camp. I've seen it with so many of these guys who are now moving toward like this weird version of fundamentalism. Like they're headed that way. And maybe they always were. That's something that I've just like considered over the last year. Like, I'm like, have these guys changed that much, or was I just different? Maybe I was just different, but they all are in that camp now. Think G3 Ministries, all of that. They're over there, and all these guys are complaining about the Young Restless Reform movement. And I've seen this, like, I've gotten a lot of people that I never wanted. I got Gabe Hughes hopping into this. Like, oh my goodness, who let that guy back on Twitter? Man. But like all those kind of guys are, coming at me, and I'm mostly ignoring it instead of making a video about it. But like they're all upset, and they're like talking about how the Young Restless Reform movement was TGC and T4G. And it's just like, wait, what? And they're like, no, Paul Washer was never a part of it, and John MacArthur was never a part of it. These guys always critiqued it. And it's like, okay, I'm sure that they probably did say some things. I know for a fact John MacArthur said some things about Mark Driscoll, but to act like they weren't a part of the Young Restless Reform movement is super crazy to me. I'm not even going to play the audio clip because it's too much. Like, I don't understand what people are talking about, because they were. John MacArthur was one of the main guys with the Young Restless Reform movement. It's why his Shepherd's Conference got so big. All right, I'm sure it was big before, but it boomed. All of these institutions that got started, it wasn't just because, okay, now we know who D.A. Carson is. Like, why do we know who D.A. Carson is? Because of people like this. Because Paul Washer, because John MacArthur, because a lot of these guys, Mark Driscoll too, it wasn't all good, okay? And I'm not saying that it wasn't all bad either. But these guys were the voices of the Young Restless Reform movement. They were there. They were the guys that people were listening to, guys my age. Now, again, I didn't listen to Paul Washer, but there were other guys like him. I certainly listened to John MacArthur. And like, to say like, oh, this is the problem with the Young Restless Reform movement. It's just like, they were listening to you, bro. Like, you're complaining about your own movement as if you didn't belong, or we don't remember that you didn't belong, but you went to all the events. You spoke on the platforms of these things. You wrote the books. You gave the sermons. Like, this guy is the one who gave like the, what do they call it? The something youth sermon. When he's like, I don't know why you're clapping. I'm talking about you. Like that's him. Like he's one of like if there's a spearhead, he's on it. All right. As far as the Young Restless Reform movement. And now like he's saying that he's not, and all of his followers are saying that he wasn't. And it's just driving me crazy, to be honest. It's like, why we're so revisionist. Like they claim all the other guys they're the ones with the revisionist history. And then they're just like, yeah, that didn't happen. What? The early days of G3 weren't a part of the Young Restless Reform movement? What? John MacArthur didn't speak at T4G? What? John MacArthur, until like 3 years ago, like right before the pandemic, like they were going to do a Gospel Coalition West conference. And it was going to be at Grace Community Church. Like, these guys belong to the camp. And they're just like, nope. You don't know what you're talking about. Are you serious? Are you going to blame Paul Washer? And that's something I got asked a bunch. Are you going to blame Paul Washer for the Young Restless Reform movement? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying he was there. Like, what is going on? And they love like things like the American Gospel and Lensphere. What's that guy's name? Les Lensphere, whatever, with the Reform Pub. He started making documentaries, and they love like the Calvinist documentary. And it's like, did you guys, like, you love these things? Do you guys not remember them? Because like he was there. And to just be like, no, the Young Restless Reform movement is only the Gospel Coalition and T4G. And it's definitely not, G3 that got started at the same time, who had the same people come and speak, who wanted to be in the same camps and then didn't make it, into those camps. It's just, what? He doesn't belong? Like, if you're like, well, he's just critiquing his own camp. Okay. I think he's trying to like be like, I'm not a part of this. But all his followers are not saying that. They're saying he wasn't there. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. Like, can we not like just be reasonable? Like, if you have opinions about, okay, well, yeah, he's just critiquing his own camp. That's one thing. But then just be like, no, and he didn't even belong there at all, ever. And it was always bad. And he always said it was bad. And he never did any of the conferences, wrote any of the books, got any of the money for what? But that's what they're doing now. And the G3 guys, I think, are probably doing the exact same thing. They're just like, no. We've always been different. We've always been separate. What? No, you weren't. Like you are now. Okay, sure. Now it's different. But don't pretend like back in 2006, like that you weren't trying to get into those rooms and be a part of those conversations. And for him, don't pretend like he didn't give those sermons and spoke at the conferences. Like, guys, I don't know what's happening. Like, this is just so weird to me. But everyone's upset because I pointed this out. All right, let's look at another tweet. We just got a lot of tweets today. Let's go. Nope. Let's look at this. Have you guys heard about this? You guys know about this? Let's listen.
Hello. My name is Scott Jarrett. And for the last 21 years, I have been the pastor of Christ Covenant Church of Denver, Colorado.
Okay.
During our time of comprehensive and careful study in God's Word, we have become convinced that faith alone is not enough.
What?
That getting to heaven requires that we also do the works of faithfully obeying God's commands. In other words, that obedience, like faith, is another condition or necessary instrument to our justification.
Oh, like Doug Wilson.
That being said, it is possible that we are wrong, and we know what that means. Embracing a false gospel will mean eternity in hell, and we don't want that, which is why we are making our appeal to you, the evangelical pastor, those confident that Scripture does indeed teach faith as salvation's only instrument or condition. Here then is our appeal to you. What? Come to our church. We will present our position, and if you can prove from the Scriptures that we are wrong, we will not only repent of our former position, but bless you with $25,000.
What?
This is not a scam. We are sincere in our offer. The first person to prove that we are wrong will receive $25,000. Please consider our appeal. If you are selected, your travel to and from our church will be compensated. In addition, we promise to treat you with respect in an environment of intellectual honesty and complete submission to God's word. Thank you for taking the time to listen.
Wow. All right. So this is this group in Colorado. You might have seen it, actually. I think Phil Johnson tweeted that there was a group from this church. And I'll say this now, church, because it's not a true Christian church if this is their theology. But they belong to this church, and they went to Shepherd's Conference and pulled like a full Mark Driscoll and started like handing out flyers everywhere about, come to our church and we'll pay you $25,000 if you could prove us wrong. It's like I would deal with this theologically and like have a conversation, but it's just too goofy. It's too goofy to like really have a conversation. Like, yeah, Lucas is saying, let's go prove them wrong, bro. We can split the cash. Yeah, but here's the thing. All right, so you go, and they're like, "Oh, we're committed to intellectual honesty and whatever." Like they're not going to give you that. They're going to be like, "We're not convinced," and it's like, okay, like who's going to judge this thing? Who's going to is it Drew Carey? Who does The Price is Right? It's Drew Carey, right? Like he's going to go. And, he's going to host this thing and he'll announce the winner and we'll do a big game show out of it. This is game show theology. Like people think that I do gimmicks. It's like $25,000. Wow. Heidi, Dean, this sounds like a job for you. Think of all the updated equipment you could get. Like we can all the underdogs. All right, you guys wanted a conference? Here we go. Let's all go to Colorado, and we'll all go to this church, and we'll all prove them wrong, and then we'll split $25,000. It'll cover our costs, for traveling out there. But I think we can go and do this. Like, who's gonna do this? So obviously, this is a gimmick to try to get their theology on the map, which I made the joke, but guys, this isn't all that different from what Doug Wilson is teaching with Federal Vision. Like, I know that might sound shocking to you, but he's saying clearly what a lot of these Federal Vision guys are hiding in their theology and using different words and words that we know, but using them differently. Like it is like basically that, at least that's what it sounds like. Now, if you go to their website, guys, please don't apply. We can make jokes, but please, nobody go. We don't want to be a part of this. But consider your $25,000 appeal. And they have, it's not by faith alone. There it is. It proves it. James 2:24. Because we all know that one verse taken out of context enables us to have whatever theology we want. But it's only $25,000 worth. Also, why 25? Like why not 100? Let's do this like a real game show. Like, what is this? $25,000? What is that going to buy you? Like 5 gallons of milk these days? Like, come on. I think you could do better. But yeah, so these guys are obviously, they're just trying to get you to go and click on their stuff. But, I think it backfired. Lucas, I just packed my bags. Where do I pick you up? Hey, man, come on up. Just cross the border. And, we can go. I don't know. They got good skiing, I hear. I've never skied before. I would fall down a mountain. But it's just kind of crazy. So I just thought it would be funny to talk about for a second. But look at this. Look at the numbers of this thing. Obviously, they got the word out because, come on, we all know Like Keith says, one of my Twitter buddies, guys, this is super weird. It's like heresy plus game show plus pyramid scheme. Exactly. It's, it's just like, what do they call them? Like an MLM? An MLM? I don't know. I'm not into that stuff. But look at 340,000 people watched or saw this tweet with 58.7 thousand people watching the video. Guys, this is a good number. All right. You could see there 18 retweets, 167 quotes. Uh-oh. Like, look at the stats here. 41 likes. So, like, I saw some people being like, don't give them, any time of day. Don't even retweet it to quote tweet it and make fun of it or anything. Don't do that. You're just going to that's what they want. Well, they only got 41 likes. So I don't think that's exactly what they wanted. So 340,000 views, 41 likes. My analytics, like YouTube tells me like, hey, you're doing a good job. This is better than your normal one. This would be one of those red ones. And it's like, no,
Hello.
that's not a good number. But let's see. All right. So they've gained, I think, about 30 followers off of this. Probably people just being like, what is this? Who is this guy? But basically they've given up on Reformed theology. Now, when I say that, you might be like, what are you talking about Calvinism for? And no, I don't mean just sola scriptura like Paul Washer. I'm saying the Reformed view of salvation, justification by faith alone. They've given up on that and they add works in, but it's no different than so many others that have done this before. Like, this sounds like a lot of different people. So this idea of like the new Protestant, it's like, bro, there's nothing new here. We've heard this before. You're just adding works in again. And they're saying like, oh, come. And there's a part of me that's like, well, maybe he's honest. But then 25,000. You add finances to that. I'm just like, nope, that's not genuine. Not genuine whatsoever. I've got about 15 more minutes I can kill with you guys. Let's go up here. Christine Pack tweeted this the other day, and I was kind of shocked. If you don't follow Christine Pack, she's pretty good on Twitter. But there's a little clip that is going around of John Piper that I wanted to talk about on Monday, but I just didn't have the time. And Wendy's right. Colorado is closer to more than Moscow. It's pretty close. It's sounding very similar. So let's observe this. Now, again, I know sometimes when I talk about people that I'm going to get, that's my guy. That's my guy. Don't talk about him. He's always good. I think we can all agree, though, when you watch this, there are some troubling things here.
If it's not requiring her to sin, but simply hurting her, then I think she endures verbal abuse for a season, and she endures perhaps being smacked one night, and then she seeks help from the church. If it's not requiring her to sin, but simply hurting her, then I think she endures verbal abuse for a season, and she endures perhaps being smacked one night, and then she seeks help from the church. If it's not...
All right. The other ones, we were having a little bit of fun, poking fun at people just saying crazy things. This is also crazy, but it's super sad. Like, this is deeply troubling. I was not aware of this clip. A lot of times people share stuff and I'm like, yeah, I saw that like 15 years ago. Like, I don't know why everyone's surprised by this. I had not seen this. And, I knew that I had a lot of differences with John Piper on complementarianism and his staunch view of it with Wayne Grudem and the what is that book? Recovering Biblical Manhood and Womanhood. I don't know. I have that book. I've read it. I've had to do, seminary work on it, whatever. But I know I have disagreements on him on this issue. I was not aware that he had this kind of a thought. This is terrible, and it's unbiblical, and really it's unpastoral, and it's kind of shocking to me. Like you could be like, oh, all complementarians. Like I know I talk to a lot of people on every side of an issue. So there's lots of people who are like, complementarians are always the worst, and like there's part of me that understands that. And there are other people who are like, no, it's just everything is feminism, and like, wah, and they don't have as much of a point. But I understand, like, there's a lot of people who watch this and they have different views on this issue. But this is just not good. What is being said here, and in the context, I've watched the bigger clip, and it's basically like, hey, when is too far, for like getting basically separation, or leading to divorce. But how can a woman who is in a harmful relationship with her husband still submit to his leadership? And like, I have issues with that. Like, again, I've got differences on complementarianism, but what he's saying here is that women have to take it. And what you don't hear, which is just shocking to me, is the authorities. And in the broader context, he's not bringing that up at all. If your husband hits you, you call the cops. You don't call your pastor. Not first. You don't call people in your church first. You call the cops. If your husband hits you, you call the cops. That's the easiest thing in the world for any pastor to say. But apparently, it's impossible for some people. And for John Piper, he's like, no. Sometimes, like, verbal abuse. A woman doesn't have to take verbal abuse. A man doesn't have to take verbal abuse, for a season. No. Like he like what he's trying to get at is go to the church, and you could have church discipline. And like, all of these things should be dealt with by church discipline, but we know how that goes. One, that's not everything that church discipline is designed for. All right. Church discipline isn't for dealing with every world problem. All right. There are things that you have to go talk to the authorities about that have nothing to do with how the process of church discipline is going to go right off the bat. And this is one of those issues. If there's abuse in the home, and I'm just going to say it because it's statistically, you look at everything. I don't care what all these guys are trying to say now. Man, some of these guys out here who hate, egalitarianism so much, are just like, well, don't you know it's the woman that mostly does it? It's the woman that mostly abuses. And it's like, what? No. Look at any stats from any solid resource, and you're going to see it's the men. It's the husbands who, the vast majority of abuse that happens in the home, it's going to be the husband abusing the wife. Okay. So if that's happening, that wife should call the police, and the police should deal with that husband. Now, there are secondary effects of going through church discipline. I do believe that if you are abusing your spouse, you should go through church discipline. Absolutely. But that isn't your first call. And, just to be like, oh, it happened once. Once is enough. Once is enough for the cops to be called. If the woman wants to call the cops, it's not just like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Now you've ruined your family. No, he ruined the family when he hit her. Like, there's so much that's like just sitting underneath what was just said by him. Like, there's blame that's just sitting there, as if, like, if the woman does something, that it's going to ruin things in the family. No, the abusive husband is the one who's ruining the family. Like, and going to the church, like, okay, if that were to happen, I've never had, like, let me be clear. Well, no, I can't say that. All right. I have to be careful because there are people attached to stories and things like that. I'll just say if I'm pastoring a church right now and a woman comes to me and says that her husband hit her last night, we are sitting together and calling the police. Like, we're not calling the husband to get his side of the story. We are not, calling together the elder board to talk about it. I'm not calling, a close friend of hers to get her, to have someone to commiserate with or whatever, or comfort her. I'm first calling the police. I don't know why that's so difficult. Like, it's 3 numbers. It's not that hard to remember. And you just call those 3 numbers and you're going to get help. And then from there could be other things that happen. And it doesn't mean that husband is going to go to prison. A lot of people think that, like, oh, it automatically he's going to go to prison. He's going to ruin his life, whatever. But that's the same for anyone who commits a crime. And hitting your wife is a crime. Like, if you commit a crime, there are going to be punishments for that crime. Even if you're like, oh, it was only one time I robbed the bank, cop's going to be like, I don't care, you're going to prison. So I don't know why it's just like, oh, it was just one time. It's not that big a deal. You don't want to, ruin things. It's like, well, he ruined things when he made that decision. But like, there's just so much wrong here. So much wrong here. And there's so much like just sitting underneath the surface of why someone would say that, because it's just common sense to just call the police, let them deal with it. And like I said, it doesn't mean that he's going to go to prison, but they're going to be able to step in and be like, okay, well, we know that this happened. You don't have to press charges, but we know that this happened. There might be some consequences for it. It might not always be prison, but like it's now on public record. It's not a matter of, well, I told my pastor and, we decided it wasn't a big deal, and then no one believes you later. Like, you get it on public record, this happened, and then you could deal with the consequences of that thing that your husband did. And no pastor should be like, oh, we need to sit on this. We need to sit on this. And, oh, she's like not sure if she wants to call the cops. No, you convince her. You can convince her. She needs it. She like, a woman who's being abused isn't thinking things through in that way, probably. And the pastor is sitting there as a third party and should have like the objective position of being able to be like, okay, no, you really do need to call the cops. I know you don't want to. I know you don't feel like you need to, but you do need to, because this is where it could go. And instead of just being like, oh, well, the church will deal with it. It's not what the church is for. The church is not meant, Paul says this, the church is not meant to govern laws. Like, no, you deal with theology, you deal with sin that's happening within the church. But when it comes to criminal activity, you let the civil authorities know and they deal with it. And then, yes, there are going to be consequences within the church. What happens there, church discipline should happen. But it's not the first thing that happens. And it shouldn't be a process. Oh, you just endure. That's what he said.
For a season, and she endures perhaps being smacked one night, and then she seeks help from the church. If it's not requiring her to...
One, that's assuming that the church would even do anything. And I think we've seen it a lot in this culture where, no, the church doesn't always do anything. And maybe they're not going to believe you. Maybe if you don't have a black eye or a bruise, they're going to be like, oh, did he just kind of get in your bubble a little bit? Well, it was only just like a kind of a push, or was it just like a show of force? If your husband pushes you, call the cops. Problem solved. Like, not solved, but like, at least for the pastor, of like, what is the next step? That's it. Call the cops. So I just wanted to hop on for a couple minutes and cover a few of those things. I'll probably clip it out here in a little bit later on, maybe this evening, and have them uploaded over the next couple days. But I got about, I can get away with about 10 more minutes if you guys just want to chat about some things. Let me see what you guys have been saying here. Yeah, RJ says that is not okay, and I'm not sorry. Yeah. And Sam says this is the exact teaching in this momentary marriage. I'm not sure what that is. Heidi says, isn't this old? I thought he said this a while back. You might have seen it. I've never seen this, and it's kind of shocking to me. But maybe this is old hat, and you guys are just like, we've seen this stuff. But this was new to me. I was kind of like, I saw this from Christine, and I was just like, what? No, like, I know I have differences with the guy, but dang, that's a bridge too far. Let's see. I mean, by all means, talk about it. It's messed up. And I'm not surprised because of the biblical manhood book, but not okay. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. A lot of stuff. Asking directions. A man shouldn't ask directions from a woman, or the woman needs to be careful about explaining the directions on the map to the man, lest his fragile ego be scarred forever. No, I'm not talking about the Council of Biblical Manhood and Womanhood. It's a book, Recovering Biblical Manhood, something like that. I don't know. Look it up on Amazon. I don't remember the exact name. I've got it somewhere. I have all my Piper books out. It's on one of these shelves. It's dark in here. I know it looks like it's bright, but it's actually like really dark. I can't really tell where things are. And I don't have my glasses on. Let's see. Exactly. Caleb was right. One occasion of abuse is one too many. Yeah. It's not like, let's talk about it and we'll wait and see if it happens again. Because you never know whether that husband is going to just go crazy one of these times. It's not just like, I hit her once. You don't know. Like, oh my goodness, I couldn't even imagine like having that on my conscience as a pastor, of telling someone like, okay, we dealt with it. We had 4 sessions of counseling. You go home and, everything's fine now. And then if something happens, like, I don't understand how these guys could be so flippant about that. Like the caring of souls. Like, don't you just feel like you would feel incredible responsibility for that situation if you're just like, all right, you need to go home, especially when he's like, you might have to endure getting smacked one night, like, and just like endure. Like the idea there is that you're just going to stay there. So, and then get help from the church. That's not how that works. Lucas, grateful for my church family. I've made mistakes in my marriage. They walked us through a lot, but they also instructed us to get Christian counseling, and it changed our life. The church can help, but there are professionals. Yeah, there are professionals, and some of them include the police. So they're pretty professional when it comes to dealing with crimes. And but I think over time, yes, counseling does help. And doesn't mean, just because there's abuse in the relationship, doesn't mean that it always leads in divorce. All right. That's not what I'm saying. I hope that's pretty clear. That's not what I'm saying, but it does mean that there are consequences for that. Just like there are consequences for all of our actions. This Momentary Marriage is his book on marriage. I got a bunch of Piper books. Apparently I don't have that. Maybe it's because I knew. I don't know. Probably just didn't even know about it. Did Grace to you apologize for the abuse case they were recently involved in? Grace to you apologize? I'm sorry. I'm getting really sarcastic now. But no, they did not. Heidi, doesn't he reference the wife enduring abuse as a testimony of Christ to the husband too? I'm trying to find the fuller quote. Yeah, he goes into it, but he's really like towards the end after he's just focused on like church discipline being like the solution for all of this. But yeah, he's saying that could be a way to testify to the husband. That's nope. Star says, I'm in a private Facebook group for Christian women for in abusive marriages. Earlier this year, one of our ladies was killed by her husband. I went back and read her posts. It was so sad. That is awful. That is so tragic. But it is something that can happen and does happen. And pastors need to be way more cautious about how they handle these situations. And it's not just pastors, it's people in the church. You know, there are people, even like close friends of a wife, who will be like, it's not that bad, you know, just put a little makeup on, or it was just that one time, right? So like, you know, you don't want to go through the whole hassle of separation and all that. And I could tell you, if it happens once, it's not going to be just a one-time thing. At least it's not just going to be like, oh, one full act of aggression. Like it might be one punch, and then he sees, oh, I'll never punch her again, but there'll be other ways that he does it. Lucas, I definitely didn't physically. Oh, yeah, I'm not. Yeah, man, not accusing or anything. No, if that's how I came across, I apologize. I was just saying, like in this issue, like the police are a good way. Yeah. But yeah, no worries. Raphael, what is wrong with Piper? He even said, if anyone enters my home to rob, I'll sit and pray instead of going into protector mode. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting on that stuff. Like for me, I wouldn't. I've talked about go watch my gun safety thing. Like I did an Underdog Theology episode, or Theo Live back in the day, an Underdog Theology show about my views on guns. And I got to be honest, a lot of that I got from Piper, and he was very informative on that for me. And so I have a lot in common when it comes to that. And it is kind of just weird to me to see him go this far on this issue. And apparently that's just been the way, because this thing is old. This is like 2010, I think. Exactly. It's never just one time. Never. And like I said, it might be one time that there's like an actual like punch, but it's not just going to be one act of aggression. There are going to be other ways. And it might not always be physical. A lot of times when an abusive person isn't dealt with properly, they'll find other ways to abuse. And so, you know, it will be verbal, or it will be spiritual, or they're going to find different ways. They're going to manipulate situations to be abusive toward that person if they don't get the, whatever they want from that person. And so that's why those abusive people need to be dealt with properly, which isn't a strength of most churches and most pastors. And so yes, the police. Star says, the problem with Piper's thinking and a bunch like him is that they equate domestic violence victims' trauma with suffering to evangelize. Oh boy. Go look up all the stuff like I've talked about biblical counseling, and look up the one that has talks about John Street and his ideas on persecution, and that the wife is just enduring persecution. It's awful. It's awful stuff. All right, guys. I'm going to be taking off in a minute. But you know, we're going to be taking a little bit of a break. Maybe you guys saw that, maybe you didn't, from Underdog Theology. So, Underdog Theology is going to be back. I think it's April 3rd on that Monday. But we're taking a 2-week break just to work on some graphics and get some things figured out. But, I'll be doing videos through the next 2 weeks as well. Just I'm trying to figure some things out, make the stream a little bit better. Try to get some new intros, to do some new animations, just get things kind of dialed in, because good things are happening. More and more people are watching the stream, especially like the Monday show is my main focus. And for a long time, I was trying to like, okay, well, if I do a Monday show and I do a Friday show, that's more opportunities. What I'm finding out is I really need to just dial in on the Monday show, really focus it in and do that super well. And then clip outs and different things and do periodic streams like this. And maybe not exactly like this, but like this. And yeah, so good things are happening. People are coming. I mean, come on. We got Lucas subscribed today, so that's cool. Yeah, you said that. Yeah, here we are. Yeah, sometimes these things happen, and I'm just like, I need to talk to somebody, and my wife is just like, not me. So I'm just like, well, I'll go on the internet then. And also, like, I just get tired. Like, I love Twitter. I love Twitter so much. It's so fun. And you get to interact with all these ideas. And like, people are always like, Dean, where do you get all your news? What are your sources? My sources are Twitter. Yeah, I just have a bunch of Twitter lists and follow different people and get some different perspectives. I love Twitter. But there are certain times when I'm just like, I ain't interacted on this. Like, or this is too much. And I'm just like, well, I want to get my thoughts out, but it's not going to be in, 120 characters. And I hate the whole paying for that blue check mark thing. And everybody's like, now I got a personal blog on Twitter. It's like, no, stop it. Twitter's supposed to be short. What is this, a Facebook post? I'm not on Facebook. I came to Twitter to get away from Facebook. And here you are trying to make Twitter into Facebook. Heck no. Get out of here with that stuff. Anyone who has like those, like the blue check mark, I'm always like, oh no. Uh-oh, here it comes. And then they're just like, here's all my thoughts on everything. And it's like, yet here I am giving all my thoughts on everything. But it's in a video. And it's much nicer than being read everything, and everything I say is super important. It might not be that important. It's the thing is like the same thing with people who are like, I need to have 30 tweets in a thread. It's like, none of your thoughts are that important to have 30 tweets. Like, what are you doing? Like whenever I see like one of, and if it's bigger than like 8, I'm not even going down that road. It could be like the most important thread of all time. The Apostle Paul could have written a 17-part Twitter thread, and I wouldn't read it. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just not doing it. I don't have. It takes a lot of energy for me to read. I loved hearing your thoughts on this, even if it was old. I'm so glad I found Underdog Theology, the olive.
All right.
I'm glad you did too. And hey, I think it was you. Oh man, I always second guess myself now. I'm pretty sure you were the one who left like a really long, awesome comment that was like so encouraging. So thank you, Heidi, for that. It really means a lot when I get messages like that or comments like that. It just makes a really big difference, and I appreciate it because I get a lot of other messages. Sometimes it's just like, oh, thanks. I appreciate, people are finding, a little bit of community here. That's what this channel is all about. Build a little bit of community of like, hey, you've been through stuff. So have I. You're a little unhappy with what you're seeing in evangelicalism. So am I. Like, let's just hang out and talk about it. We don't have to be jerks about it. Like, I hope I don't come across that way, but also, like, we don't have to be like, we have to be very studious right now. We can only say things academically, and we cannot make any assertion whatsoever to the person's character or read anything. We can only let's just take it real, just like what they said, who they are, and let's just talk about it. And it's Christian reaction. That's what I view here on the channel. Was it really long? It was pretty long, but I loved it, and I saved it, and I sent it to my wife, and I was like, look at this. Isn't this so cool? Like, I love those kind of messages. It really is super encouraging. Wendy says, Dean, you can always come home. Our light is always on. Maybe we should get one of those. We should get an on-air light. That's what I should do. I'll do that. Maybe you'll see that in the next video. Probably not, because Amazon takes 9 years. Unless it's a book. Oh my goodness. I ordered a book and it was here like the next day. Guys, I'm not used to that. Canada doesn't work that way. I really need to leave. I got kids to pick up. We got student-led conferences today. Oh boy, that's going to be fun. Philip says, I will not leave long, meaningful messages. And he wants his Android back. Gross. Ew, Android. Oh, gross. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Bye.